Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Beloved and Kindred. I am Dr. Grace D. Gipson, Assistant Professor in the Department of African American Studies at Virginia Commonwealth University.
And I'm Dr. Kaniqua Robinson, Assistant Professor in the Department of Anthropology at Furman University.
All right, so it's been a little minute, but we back, y'all. We're closing out our season 2 of Blackness and Horror. And so we have an interesting one to close out our series this time around. And it is the 2016 film, The Girl with All the Gifts. And so my colleague and my sister friend here posed a question the other day after were watching the movie. And it was, I think, a very interesting question of this idea of what does freedom look like to you? So coming off the heels of Juneteenth, getting ready to enter into 4th of July, you know, what does freedom look like to you, Dr. Robinson?
So I think, you know, a lot of times we think of freedom, we think of imprisonment and then release, physical imprisonment. I think of freedom, if I had to, you know, describe it, it's joy. Joy. When you do not allow anyone, because you have your own agency, when you don't allow anyone to control your joy.
Right.
And the ability to just have fun. You know, I love to say, enjoy your life, enjoy your time, right? Because it's about make sure that no matter what you are dealing with and what you're going through, you know, experience joy. Take time to do what you love, because that's part of just being and just existing. It's also just being happy, because, you know, we go through a lot, you know, racism and enslavement and, you know, so far, so on. We don't have time for joy.
Right.
And, you know, even when we think about capitalism and working and, you know, always trying to make ends meet, we forget that joy is vital. And joy also is resistance.
Yes.
So it's important that we, you know, hold on to our joy, amplify it.
Right.
Don't let anyone extinguish it. And so, like, for me, you know, joy is tied to reading. It's tied to knowledge. And we'll talk about knowledge later, because, you know, they may control your body. I know this is an old saying, you know, I know it's said in my family in so many ways, like they can control your body, but they can't control your mind.
Right.
We're going to see that in, you know, this discussion. So, you know, my joy is tied to knowledge. It's tied to being around family, being in my community. It's tied to, you know, just fun things, teaching.
Yes.
And it's about not feeling controlled. Well, your joy not being controlled, I would say.
Right. So I like that. I mean, you pretty much covered, you know, I mean, I especially like the fact of the idea of just being. Like, freedom is really just being able to just, you know, think of it as like being able to just casually walk with not a care in the world and just be able to live life, breathe in life, whatever it is and wherever that may be. You know, freedom is just existing, because so often even that is a form of resistance, just to be able to exist in the world. So, to exist. And joy, so often we will sacrifice everything else or sacrifice our own joy for something else. You know, and it's like, no, I need to take advantage of the joy that is there, that exists, embrace it, you know, love it, all of that. So
absolutely that's a huge thing. It's about our joy is important. It's important to our existence. It's important to being, because it's like, what's the point of living if you're not having fun while doing it?
Right. Yeah.
There
you go, pretty much. And I think it really is a really good question to think about as we're thinking about this film. So like I said, it comes out 2016. I think it comes to the US in 2017. And it is a British film. So, you know, we're bringing in the diaspora here. So most of the films that we've been talking about under the, you know, the theme of Blackness and Horror have been, you know, US stateside. So we're kind of taking us over the pond, as they say, and, you know, looking into the ways in which horror is reflected differently. And much of what I know, definitely you can probably relate from watching this film, we relate to some of the things. We see like this happens in the US. So this isn't just a one location type of thing. So it's very universal, as I guess one would say. So,
you know, Blackness as being global.
Right.
The Black experience. And even if we talk about racism, how racism is global, it's not just local.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a global system.
Yep.
And so we can see even our relation to that in this film. We'll talk about more, of course, but yeah, we definitely are connected across this globe. Absolutely.
And it's very complicated and layered. It's not very cut and dry. I mean, in ways it's cut and dry, but in ways it's not so cut and dry. So, so yeah, brief synopsis of the film. So, you know, it's this, like I said, it's a film that is in a post-apocalyptic, you know, setting. It's in this special school on a military base set here where these second generation children who are known as hungries, or we would see kind of zombies in essence, who are being experimented on, being tested on. And this is something we would definitely dive into further, is this idea of children as experiments, as subjects for someone else's benefit. And so we have a Black girl protagonist, Melanie, which, little side story, Melanie, the young lady who plays Melanie, it was originally not meant to be a Black girl who was supposed to play this role. But the actress came in, basically stunned the team, the directors and all that, and took on the role. So interesting, because sometimes I wonder, as I was watching it, what would this have been like, you know, or how would the content maybe have changed with it not being a Black girl? Because it very much is, it transforms the story because it is a Black girl as the protagonist. So
that's a good point. How would it change? You know, how would the message change?
Right.
Who would relate to the message or understand the message if it was different?
And, you know, would she be deemed as a hero? Because one might say this is somewhat of a kind of, you know, superhero type of film or anti-hero type of film. And would she be deemed definitely much more as a hero than, you know, if she was not a little Black girl?
Right.
So, yeah. So we're definitely, you know, looking at tapping into some Black girl magic, one might say, literally. And the title itself, The Girl with All the Gifts, is definitely a reference to Greek mythology, Pandoras Box, if you're familiar with that. So definitely, you know, Google that, channel that, look that up. They definitely talk about the story and read the story in the series. And I had not even made that connection until to hearing it. I knew about Pandora's Box, but never realized the, you know, kind of, I guess, the who Pandora was. And so so let's see what else to describe it. So yeah, like I said, these kids are being experimented on. They're being taught as if they're in a regular school, but every day there seems to be one that goes missing. And Melanie seems to be the one kind of like dictating that, not realizing that she's doing that until it kind of clicks one day. She finds out one of her friends is missing. So what were kind of like some of your thoughts, you know, before we like really dive into some of the themes of the film, you know, upon watching it?
So I was looking at it thinking about The Walking Dead.
Absolutely.
I was like, okay, this is what it is. Like, it's about, you know, but with children controlling the narrative and the conversation. And then, you know, you also bring up, you know, we will talk about we will talk about the innocence of the children.
Yes.
Where they're just there. Like, we want to learn, we want to experience joy too, even on this military base. We want to just be, you know, we have this thing. But you see how all the adults are controlling them.
Right.
Where they don't have this freedom at all, where, you know, even if they want to tell a story, it has to be controlled, like all these things. And so when I was looking at this film, I was thinking of Walking Dead initially, and then as it kept going, I was like, okay,
there's a little bit more to this Walking Dead.
Yes. I was like, okay. So I think the film was very interesting. It was very interesting. I really appreciated the child agency in that.
Yes.
And of course, we'll talk more about this, but again, going back to the freedom of the children, how it's being stifled, and they just want to exist.
Yeah.
And
simple as that. Mm-hmm.
Just exist. They want to live. And even their lives were confined.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it was, interesting, like we're calling them children and we're speaking as they are humans, but they were not seen as that. They were seen as subjects. They were seen as monsters, as animals. Right. So that agency, so we'll start there, that agency was taken away from them. They were not children anymore. They were not able to grow up as children. They were very much seen as almost a weapon, because it's like, how can I extract out of you what I need? But at the same time, they were feared. These children who may have been 11, 12 years old, but these grown adults were very much afraid of them, so much that they had to be strapped into these wheelchairs and these seats from head to toe, literally.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I appreciate Melanie. Mm-hmm. Because she used her mind to have this, like, I'm going to think outside of this. Right. That she was being controlled. She's like, no, I'm going to learn from this. Mm-hmm. And it was powerful, where it was like, okay, we're going to give me a number. Right. At first she gave him 13. And next thing you know, 13 disappeared. Yep. So you know what? 4. Right. And 4 happened to be her number. Her number. Said 4, that's the number I choose. Take me, let me learn from what you're doing. Right. And, I don't know. I guess my biggest thing, and I really appreciate how she was able to think outside of her confinement. Absolutely. She was able to move beyond just being in the wheelchair and with the thing around her head. She was able to say, I'm going to learn your ways. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm going to just be. I'm going to learn what's going on, not just be, but I'm going to learn everything around me so I can survive. Right. She had that agency, that will to say, I'm going to do something beyond this. Yes, yes. And the fact that she was so observant and very inquisitive, every small detail, which probably the military folks and the doctors and the teachers were not even picking up on. Like, she's watching the smallest details of how to put a gun together. She's watching how a story is being told. She's watching how someone literally, puts her arm, secures her arm on the chair. So, every little small detail that, they probably weren't even realizing. And this happens a lot. People don't listen to kids, they don't watch kids, and they don't realize, like, these kids are picking up everything. They're sponges. Right, as they should. Mm-hmm. And so, she was asking questions like, why this, why that? And they were answering. And it became her power. Yep. So one thing about kids, children, they are not as scared, not necessarily scared or fearful or cautious as we are as adults. Right. So as they are learning, it becomes a superpower. Yep. So of course, it's a girl with all the gifts, because she did not have the restraint of life that comes, for, as we got older, to, constrain her. So she restrained her. So she was able to use her knowledge as her gift. Yes. Her questioning, her curiosity, those were her gifts. Right. And sometimes when you have a child who asks why, or who wants to know too much, we're like, be quiet. Right. Stop asking questions. You want to know too much. You're changing the status quo. You're changing the narrative by asking. Stop asking. And so she used her knowledge, this curiosity, as her power to learn about herself, to learn about the hungries. Well, she isn't hungry. Well, mixed, whatever. And to learn about those around her who's trying to control her. So, and I appreciate that. Yeah. Especially as a Black girl. Like, she was not seen as dumb. She was very much smart, intellectual, at this very young age, which is very rare in film and Hollywood. We don't often see Black girl portrayal in that sense. No, because you see this intelligent Black girl. If I say woman, she's definitely not a woman yet. She's a girl. Who's like, I got this. I'm controlling myself. I can do this. And really, one thing about, we talk about Black women as invisible.
Right.
She
Right.
refused to be invisible. She was in the front of the class. She was always talkative. She was saying things. She was asking questions. She refused to be invisible throughout this whole film. She led people, saved lives throughout this whole film.
Mm-hmm.
She was her own agent. She did not let anyone even help her with her own freedom. She became free herself, which I appreciate because usually they have a white messiah in movies. There was not one in this one.
Not at all. Not, I mean, if anything, she was very much, that counter narrative of that. And the moment you thought it was going to be a white savior, it was like she's inserted in the front. So we're like, nope, you thought that they were going to be the ones to save you, but nope, that's me.
Actually, I'm going to say them. So thank you.
And I think, even in knowing that this child pretty much had these people's lives in her hands, there's also a certain pressure that I see in that, because she's just a child. Like, she's not an adult. Like, she should be able to do what kids do. She should be able to play, have fun, but yet she's on this mission to save, society, to save the world. That's a lot to put on a kid. She's a lot to put on anybody, but definitely, a child. So it's, even in that, as much as it's exciting to see her leading, I'm also concerned that because she's had to grow up so fast and that she's not been able to have that childhood, what does that mean, for her? And what does that mean, for the future, of her?
It is very interesting that even, making a great point, because even as you say these things, it's like, is she living our lives of having to grow up too quick?
Mm-hmm.
Or, even as Black women, we could be girls, but we're always adultified.
Yep.
So it's like, are we predicting her future?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we saying, look, I'm so happy for you doing all this adult stuff because you are a girl with all these gifts now. Thank you for saving the world. You got the gifts.
Yep.
Thank you for being curious. We love that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're fearful of when you turn 15 or 16, you're already grown. So by the time you're 19, you burnt out.
Exactly.
So are we, so that's part of it too, where, one thing is we love children, their curiosity. I do. I think it's awesome. But then is there something in it where we're protecting them for not knowing too much?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe it's like, we want to keep you, it sounds like, a child should stay in a child's place. That's controlling. But part of that is, I want to keep your child and protect you and your innocence so you can experience the childlike joy before you become an adult.
Right. So how do we find that balance? This is a rhetorical question. How do we find that balance of protecting their innocence, but also, feeding their curiosity? Like, where is that balance between the two? And I think that's the constant, I'm not going to call it a struggle, but that's the constant journey, is finding the balance of maintaining their innocence, but also feeding their curiosity, because they need both. They should be able to have both.
Yeah, because it really is hard. It's like, thank you for your curiosity, but let's just have fun. Let's watch a movie.
Yep.
But, sometimes we have to be careful too, where we're like, we don't need to know anything.
Right.
And that's not fair to them either, because we're not equipping them with the skills they need to grow older.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
they can learn a lot from how we deal with things. Exactly. They don't have to do everything.
Right.
But it's important that, like you say, it's a delicate balance. I don't know. I'm not a mother, so I don't know what that's like to actually be in the, as a mother, to be in the presence of a child and a child asking you why. Mm-hmm. As a professor, and you know this, you will have students asking, well, why is this working out this way? You're like, well, let me tell you, you're not supposed to know everything. There are some things that, just wait on. So it's still a balance even for us in our profession.
Yep, it is.
And our parents, and like, how much do they divulge to us? And we're like, why do you tell me? It's like, maybe if I didn't know, how would that have shaped me? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's wisdom also that comes with parenting or just being an adult and, mentoring or teaching younger people. So, yeah.
So kind of continuing on this like learning thing, you mentioned a little earlier about how knowledge and the power of knowledge. And, we very much see education as liberating. There's a quote, I'm paraphrasing, that Malcolm X, talks about, how education is the passport to the future. Yeah. And you definitely see this in Melanie, particularly in the classroom, and even, outside of the class, where she's, can we tell a story? Can you read us about this? Can, or the fact that she was able to spit off all of the periodic table, numbers and elements with ease, no problem with it. And the fact that she wanted to soak up so much. And we see how, once she soaked up all the energy, how it kind of like resulted in saving their lives, or in the fact that because she saw something or she witnessed something, she was able to use that later, for their benefit, for everybody's benefit that she was around. So
yeah. Even in the end of the film, so it started with education, them in the classroom, and ending with her, with Miss Justino,
yes,
teaching the hungries, the other people, like how, about whatever history or whatever she was teaching, I don't know. But it's about her saying, hey, you all, for us to survive, you need to know.
Right.
You need to know your past, present, and future. You need to know everything, because that's the only way that I was able to even save y'all.
Right.
So to continue to save yourself, to have your own agency, here is some more knowledge for you, so that you can then work forward, and as you get older, continue to, have a legacy, or have more people, whatever, but continue to, exist. That's the word. Continue to exist. Yes.
This brings us to a moment that we've kind of coined. We got to figure out how to coin this term, but it was a John Henry Clark moment, where, if anyone knows who John Henry Clark is, and we've mentioned him several times in this podcast, I would say one of the smartest people in the world, who ever existed. And the fact that, if you ever seen, I think it's Many Rivers to Many, Lord, that's is it Many Rivers?
Not Many Rivers Across, but is it? That's the song on Leonard Adams. I'm trying to make sure that it's not.
But it's something with rivers, and
it's across there.
And he talks about how not only did he know about his people in African history and African American history, but he knew about the Greeks, he knew about the Romans, he knew about everyone else, because it was important that not only am I going to know about me, but I'm going to know about all of y'all too. So that way I have all of the knowledge. So no one can tell me I didn't know, or I can't say that I didn't have, I wasn't equipped. And that's exactly what Melanie was doing. She was getting everything about her kind, everything about the other people's kind, and how can she, incorporate all of this knowledge and this information to get her through, to get her to this freedom, that she, actively seeking.
Because it's important that we know about everyone's past.
Yes.
Because we don't operate in a vacuum. We don't operate with just us. We need to be in conversation with others who are existing. That was provide context of who we are, but also help us to understand each other better. Exactly. So it's important that, Henry Clark did. He knew about different histories. Because where do we place within these multiple histories? Because it's not just one history, it's histories. And so even as, she's Melanie getting to know, who she is as a hungry and learning herself, she's like, well, let me learn about the people who are trying to kill me. It's better to know your enemy than to have an enemy as a stranger. Because if you know your enemy, you know how to deal with it. And so she, while she was there in this military base or whatnot, she was learning her enemy. She was learning how they were trying to kill her, or learning how they were trying to get a vaccine, learning how they were trying to subdue all these kids. So she used that for her liberation and those of other hungries, even in the future. She learned to set them on fire to have these exploding pods at the end. Because she was like, I learned from them. And that will help us thrive. So it's important that you know your enemy and what's going to happen. So
And then there's this, this notion of her being able to temper her hungriness, her wanting to be feeding off of others. So she would, many a time say, I smell you, like, and this is something that the hungries, were very known for, like the smell and this, wanting to get this taste of flesh. And Melanie would, be able to kind of forewarn the folks like, look, I'm hungry. I need to get something.
Communication skills. Yes. Communication skills.
It's going to be y'all or something here. So you need to allow me to feed here. And because she was like, I can smell you, I can smell you. And just her being able to say that out loud and vocalize that, instead of just per se just going after them, like, and in many ways she was sparing their life because she could have easily, not even said anything and just said, I'm hungry, I'm gonna get you. And it was just kind of that. So, and this is all throughout the movie. So even when there was a moment in the classroom where the military guard like purposely was trying to, antagonize this child, and her, out of everyone else, she was able to be like very calm and just like, because I'm sure she was, thinking it, but at no point does she ever, try to sniff them out, try to, grab them, anything. So it's amazing that she was able to have that restraint, throughout this whole time.
Because I mean, again, she communicated. I think communication skills are key.
Yep.
So she did a great job communicating. Hey, this is a problem. It's
Right.
up to you to accept it or not, but I'm trying to spare you.
Mm-hmm.
I smell you and I'm hungry.
Yep.
You think this mask is going to help? I am hungry. If
Right.
I'm going to kill me, matter of fact, I'm going to use your empathy to save me.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you, because I know you want to kill me, but I'm letting you know that I'm hungry. So you're going to let me out or you're going to keep me in? It's up to you. It's up to you. And I appreciated that. It's this idea of this conversation of, hey, I'm letting you know about the problem.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about it?
And I think too, it speaks to like Black folks always, making sure that other people are okay, in a way, because she was making sure they were okay and kind of sacrificing her own self, and I feel like oftentimes we're doing that all the time. We're making others feel comfortable.
Even at our expense.
At our expense.
At our expense, we want you to feel good.
Right.
When we ask you to be uncomfortable for us,
then
that's when it shifts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's when it's like, I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Just like the people who were all trying to get the vaccine. Hey, we all need to walk through this thing or whatever. Let me do whatever. They were uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, but you have to be uncomfortable to survive. You have to be uncomfortable to coexist.
You're right. There's moments where you have to sit in discomfort. I tell my students that all the time. We are not going to always be feeling rosy and in bed of flowers and all that. No, there's sometimes where we're going to sit in that discomfort in order to learn, in order to really truly survive, in order to really, move forward. Everything would never always be comfortable.
Yeah, because if you're willing to, the question is always like, what do we do about racism?
Right.
Well, one thing you have to do is unlearn. To unlearn, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the tension that we're feeling right now, this is a learning space.
Yeah.
We learn in this tension. We learn when we are uncomfortable. So it's like the unlearning process and, racism. I'm not saying go out and change systemic racism. You can't do this one person. But you can unlearn, you can stop supporting it, but that comes from, again, are you willing to be uncomfortable?
Right.
Willing to unlearn what you have learned. We all have to go through our own unlearning in multiple ways. Like in different ways, we had to unlearn some things that, we grew up with. Like, oh, wow, we didn't know. Okay, thanks. Okay.
And it's a constant process. So it's not just one day we unlearn and then we're good for the rest of our lives. No, it's a constant unlearning.
Like even I to bring up Lizzo, who's wonderful because I think she's amazing. I think the song is called Girls, but with the W or maybe 2 R's. I don't know.
R's, I think 2 R's.
Oh, listen, okay, girls. What girls? Anyway, so in one of the lyrics where she said something offensive, right, and she changed the lyrics because she learned, right, and she was willing to say, you know what, I'm learning. And that to me, even as the public was making her feel uncomfortable, how she learned from that, right. And she did not people were telling her, hey, fight back, do whatever. You shouldn't have to change your lyric. It's like, no. Thank you. Even if we did not understand it, even if we did not, like some of us didn't know that was offensive. I learned from that. So even, granted, I don't think I would say the word. I don't know. I can't really remember the situation, but either way, we learn from that. Like, okay, first of all, we need to always be mindful of what we say and what we do.
Right.
And the fact that she was able to say, I apologize for being offensive. I applaud her for that. And I also applaud the people who's told her that.
Right. Because oftentimes people don't tell. They just let people just, go out there and hang themselves.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So it's about communicating, just like Melanie did. I'm hungry.
Right.
And that's what the go ahead.
Maybe extreme, but it was really this communicating of, I have to feed my need, and this need impacts you.
Right.
And so, therefore, this is what we need to do so that you can still carry out your day. I can carry out my day, and we can all win here.
Right. I'm literally just hungry. If we do that, we can survive. Just like with the population of the Lizzo fans. Hey, this is a problem.
Yep.
And Lizzo said, I hear you.
And let me fix this.
Yeah, let me fix this. Because also the whole I hear you and then moving on is not how it works.
Right.
She was like, I hear you and I'm going to change it. Right. Because I appreciate you and I respect you. But that's like you said, we're all going through this unlearning process and unlearning and relearning.
Right.
So it's a thing.
Yeah. Now, at the core of this film is experimentation, and which then leads to racism, which leads to aspects of taking away, these aspects of survival, what it means to be human, what it means to be, not seen as that. And so definitely, the fact that experimentation is key here, but it's experimentation of kids, of children, so then it further leads us to think about everything even more specific, because we're talking about a Black girl protagonist.
Yeah.
The experimentation that Black people have endured over time, everything from Henrietta Lacks to the Tuskegee, everything in between. And so there's so much that, and we may be putting something out there that the author of the book, because this was based on a book, I would learn, and the writers maybe weren't even thinking about, and maybe they were. But
once you insert a Black girl in this space,
right,
it then became change the narrative.
Yes.
And we have to be, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, like you said, they probably like, we just want a post-apocalyptic film. It's like, but insert a Black girl. And so with her, it changes everything. It changes like the conversation.
Right.
So yeah. And I think experimentation, like you said, is huge. It was a huge part of it. Where you are going to be the human subject against your will.
Right.
Without consent.
Yes, that's the key. Without
consent. As historically, Black people have been experimented on without consent.
Yep.
And then people say things like, it's for the betterment of society.
Whose society? For who?
Whose society? Who gets sacrificed?
Yep.
Who has to be the sacrificial lamb for the betterment of society? Do we get a choice in being this sacrificial lamb?
And so Dr. Caldwell, who is played by Glenn Close, is the main doctor who is trying to find this vaccine. And, throughout the entire film, she is trying to make sure that Melanie stays alive. Not for why you think, though. She sees something in Melanie that she needs. And that would go towards the vaccine. Right. And, constantly telling Melanie, you should sacrifice yourself, in so many words, sacrifice yourself for the betterment of the world so we can save the world, because there's something in you that we need that can create, this antidote, this whatever. And so, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, this white woman is telling this Black girl, give up your life, basically, you have nothing else left to live for. You're a second.
You don't even hurt. You have some anesthesia. You'll be fine.
Be painless.
Painless. It's painless.
Like talking her into, giving up her life. Because what part of taking out my brain and taking out my spine is painless. At no point I don't see anywhere in there where that is painless. And then I come out alive still in the end. No.
No, we good. We're not gonna lie anymore. No, thank you. And I love how she was like, "We're good here, thanks." No, I'm not giving that to you, because it was, her consent. She did not consent, and she enforced her lack of consent. Right. She said, "I did not." And so again, it goes back to how historically, like you mentioned, Henrietta Lacks, she didn't consent to that, even though the doctor tried to lie. She never consented to that. And so people still making money off her cells.
Yes.
And it's the family seeing the money from these cells. Like, so no one is seeing the money. All these things that have happened, people love to say again, hey, but there was so much advancement.
But for who?
And for who?
Of this advancement.
The Tuskegee study, you literally said for these Black men, hey, we're going to track syphilis in your spirit. But why? We just want to see if it's different for Black and white men.
Right.
So you denied them penicillin.
Right.
Henrietta died of cancer that she had to find herself. And then you took her cells, continue to make money off of them. Her family are still going through so much financially. And you still making money. And even after Henrietta died, you went and tested the family. Yes. Or at least tried. So what are you doing? Who won? The enslaved women. He has so much advancement, in regards to, gynecological things or whatever.
Sterilization, all of that.
Sterilization, all those things. Yes, we learned, but Black women were subjected to painful, unethical practices for advancement.
And we're basically, told to be seen as, you are helping the world. Like, you are saving the world, sacrificing yourself, sacrificing, what it is that you have inside of you for the betterment of the world. But who helping me?
Right.
Who gets to sacrifice for me? In this instance.
And goes back to our same quote that we've mentioned several times. I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep you warm.
Nope.
Don't know where that quote comes from, but that's fine. But again, we're not setting ourselves on fire to keep you warm. And we learn to make sure that consent is key. But that comes from knowledge, because before we didn't know we could consent. We could not consent. We didn't know. We could not consent because our bodies were never ours historically. So now we're saying our bodies are ours. We require consent. So this girl knew that. She knew how to get her consent. She said no. And she took that back because she would not set herself on fire.
And she makes this very poignant statement, or she asked this question, then why should it be us who die for you? When talking about this, this vaccine, like, why should I basically lay my life on the line for you? And so, which, kind of explains the ending. So we won't tell you the ending of what exactly happens, but just put it like this. She, Melanie, in essence, wanted to see her people and her future survive, not necessarily someone else's, So if you think about it, it's the same way that Black folks are always trying to survive. Like, I'm thinking about me and my people. How can I ensure that we will always survive? Right. What lengths do I have to take, to do that? What do I have to gain? What knowledge do I need to know, so that the generations who come after me have, a better life, or who are able to succeed, who can then leave for the next generation, and so forth and so forth. So it's, we can call it selfish, you can call it whatever, but Melanie was thinking about her survival and her people.
Because they were trying to have a post-apocalyptic eugenics movement. We're like, we're going to get rid of all of you because you're not like us.
Right.
And she was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to thrive. I learned your methods. I know what you're trying to do. I know your names.
Right.
I know you. I know what you like for dinner. Like, I know your life. So I know what you're trying to do, and you're not going to trick me.
Nope.
But look, I'll save you still. If you want to kill yourself, you kill yourself.
And she would tell them like, I'm quicker than you. I can do this. And it was like, she was very matter of fact, but I was like, at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm applaud you for that. Because they know that you are, you know, not to underestimate you. Right. Because they just think you're this child who knows nothing. But yet when it was time for one of the guys to, you know, because he had been exposed, you know, to be like, take me out, you know, he hands her the gun, she clocks it back. And he was like, how did you know how to do that? She was like, well, I watched you.
I watched you.
I looked, you know, I observed everything. I said, see, this is why you have to understand, kids see everything.
Yes, they do.
They hear all of that. So,
and they may not always say. That's the thing. So kids are sneaky. I love them. I think they're awesome. But they may know more than you think.
Right.
You might want to communicate.
Exactly. Exactly. You just don't know. Just don't know.
No, it's the thing.
Any closing thoughts on The Girl with All the Gifts?
I think you should watch it. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. But one thing I will say, I think, again, you know, we talked about kids in East Bayou. Yeah. I think we should invest and put more of our energies in these young children. Right. Or in these children, in these teenagers, whatever, the youth. There we go. That's the word. Because they are our future. You know the song. I believe the children. It happened. Like I just knew someone was going to sing the song. The Spirit was going to sing it. But it's fine. So yes, I know it's a great quote. I just wish, you know, it wasn't always sung, but that's fine. So, you know, it's important that we invest because, again, they are our future. Mm-hmm. If we want things to change, if we want things to be better for everyone, then we need to invest in the people who will ensure that in the future. Right. Again, I mean, go ahead. No, it was just, you know, we have to invest in the future. Like you said, it is imperative, you know, that we do. It's imperative. Like in Girl with All the Gifts, she led us into the future. Right. Mm-hmm. She led everyone into the future. As the youth are, they're innovative, very creative. Right. I love it. Like I'm having people in my class, they're just like very creative, thinking in ways that I never thought. Yes. So instead of saying, oh, this is not what I like, so you're dismissed. It's like, look, can you teach me? Because you're so innovative, but also, you know, impart wisdom on them about, hey, it's great to be creative, but this is how you deal with creativity, or this is how you know, use your creativity wisely. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, you know, it's about having this transgenerational communication that's necessary. Right. Yeah, that's how I think. I have to say. So I'm gonna leave us with this. So knowledge is power, communication is key, and everybody has a story. And we have to listen to all of those stories. There's not just, you know, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, you know, talks about there's not a single story that tells everything. Like there's many stories and we have to listen to them all. We have to. Like memories. Yes, memories. Yes. You know, so these are things, like I said, communication, storytelling, and what was the other one? What was the other one I said? Knowledge is key. No, knowledge is power. Wait, what was that? Was that Captain America? What was that one? Knowledge is power. Oh, yes. It was one of those superhero people that said it. Yeah. Captain America? Not Captain America. The one with the ring. What's the one with the ring where all of them get together? Like, it's the power is yours. Yes. Captain Earth. Something it's like escaping me. And see, once we log off, then I'm gonna be like, I got it. The guy with the green hair, like that's who. Yes. I wanted the ring. All the elements, yes. So yeah, it'll come to us. It wasn't the ring. Either way, but yeah. Knowledge is power. Everyone has a story. Communication is key, and also like your freedom is essential. It is important. It is necessary. It is, you know, everyone needs to have it. We thank you all for joining us for another episode of Conversations with Beloved and Kindred. Thank you for helping us close out our season of Blackness and Horror. Please feel free to, you know, let us know what you might want for us to think about in season 3. You know, we're turning over ideas, thinking about what we could, you know,
use as an overall theme, but we are welcome to your thoughts and suggestions on that. So until next time, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all later.
Enjoy.